From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Keith Allen and Mr. and Mrs. America. It's a pleasure to have you with us on this Tuesday, May the 2nd, 2017. Yes, we have a big show lined up for you as usual. Lots happening today in Washington. We have the Falcons, and then celebrating the U.S. Air Force Academy trophy presentation. Donald Trump right now as we speak. Here he is.
Any member of Congress who opposes our plans on border security, and I know these folks didn't, is only empowering these deadly and dangerous threats, and we will not put up with it, and the public won't put up with it. This bill also includes important health care resources for our great coal miners who have not been treated well, but now they're being treated very well, and continues to make funding available so inner-city children here, right in the nation's capital, can go to the school of their choice. Choice is so important. After years of partisan...
So it's a U.S. Air Force Academy trophy presentation. He speaks out about the spending bill. And speaking of that, in Capitol Hill, we have Congresswoman Martha Roby talking about fair labor, which very, very important, talking about health care. How far can the Senate get with health care and the bill? Can Paul Ryan do something? Can the president do something? Well, we have some new updates on that. Martha Roby right now.
Working Families Flexibility Act. I'm excited that this bill has come to the floor and that the speaker and the leader and the chairwoman have been so supportive, even carried this bill a few times herself. This is an amendment to the Fair Labor Standards Act that allows for workers in the private sector to do what hourly wage employees in the public sector can already do, and that is utilize the benefit of compensatory time in lieu of cash payments for overtime. This bill is very simple. Congress cannot legislate another hour in the day. And if you talk to hardworking moms and dads all over this country, a lot of them will tell you that they value time more than they do the cash payments for overtime. Again, public sector employees can already do this. Look, our workforce has changed and our policies haven't kept up with that. Just 50 years ago, only 30% of moms worked outside of the home. Today, that's over 70%. So we have a lot of issues that I know you're going to talk about today, whether it's health care or tax reform or funding our government. But while we continue to work on those very important policies, this is something that we can do to demonstrate to the American people about how we care about the need for flexibility in the workforce. And the Working Families Flexibility Act does just that by giving hourly wage employees in the workforce the ability to utilize paid time off, compensatory time, if they choose to, in a voluntary agreement with their employer. Only if the employee wants to utilize this can they under this bill. So again, I appreciate the leadership here, the speaker, the leader, and of course, Kathy's. No one has been a stronger advocate for family values than Kathy. So, again, look forward to this bill coming to the floor today, and thank you.
All right, House Speaker Paul Ryan followed her immediately afterwards. I know a lot of you have busy schedules. That's why we follow the stuff here on For the People, and when there's stuff that's breaking, stuff that's important, stuff that you need to hear, we cut it up, and we get it all set for you here on For the People. Here it is. And people have been asking us, what's the deal with health care? Can it happen? Will it happen? Some new developments on there. Here's House Speaker Paul Ryan.
I want to highlight some of the important things that are in the funding bill that is coming to the floor this week. couple of things. First, this puts more boots on the ground to bolster our border security. In fact, this is the biggest increase in border security funding in a decade. It provides more resources to combat the opioid epidemic, which is a high priority for Republicans here in Congress. It expands the school choice program. That's something that many of us feel very passionately about. It expands the D.C. School Choice Opportunity Scholarship Program. It maintains our pro-life protections. It contains no new money for Obamacare, no insurance company bailouts. It takes major increases in defense spending while holding the line on non-defense. This is something that I think is really important that people are sort of missing in this really important story. I cannot understate how much of a game changer this is. I used to negotiate budget agreements with the Obama administration. Under President Obama, Democrats insisted that an increase in defense spending be tied to an equal increase in non-defense spending. You want to help the troops? You want to help the military? I need just as much money for domestic discretionary spending. That was the Obama rule that we lived under for 8 years. They insisted on this even as our military plunged further and further into a readiness crisis. Well, we got to a point that our Air Force pilots were going to museums to find spare parts over the last 8 years. We got to a point where some of our planes are so outdated that whole fleets would qualify for antique license plates in Virginia. This forced parity that we lived under the Obama years really constrained our ability to rebuild our military for this century. This appropriations bill changes all of that. No longer are the needs of our military going to be held hostage for increases in domestic spending. This means that we can finally make real important strides to increase and improve our readiness. It means we can get our service members the tools and the resources they need to confront the threats that we face all around the world. Well, we have a lot more work to do to rebuild our military. This is a very big first step. $25 billion year over year for our military, and you do not have a corresponding $25 billion increase in domestic spending, which is what Obama would have requested and required. That is not here. We broke this parity, and we think this is a really important step in the right direction. The first responsibility of our government is national defense. Under President Trump, we are truly putting that first. We are excited that we're honoring two big priorities: a big down payment on border security and a big increase for our military so that they can do their jobs.
And health care, possibly this week. Lots of stuff happening in Washington, D.C., so don't let anybody tell you there's nothing going on. There is, and plenty of it. And it looks like they're a lot closer to getting this health care thing passed, and, even without Democrats, because the Democrats have said they're not going to help us. They've been very vocal. It doesn't matter, even though it's imploding all around. And take notice, please. Remember this, is that everything could be exploding around them, and they don't care. They don't want to help Donald Trump fix it. That's all he wants to do. That's all he's wanted to do. But because of, the nature of Donald Trump wanting to do all these positive things for America, this is the reaction. And they'd rather hurt the country, set our country back. But, 8 years under Obama, apparently people really liked it. All right, so Peter King, he's obviously Senator of New York, but House Intelligence Committee, a member of that. This is what he has to say in his confidence.
I would say they're probably about 50-50. We just come out of the Republican conference, and the Speaker did say that he's within a handful of votes of getting it through. Only he and the whips really have the count. I would say it's probably within a few votes of the 216 they need. But again, getting those final votes could be tough. But there is a full court press on. I know that the Vice President Mike Pence has been involved. Obviously, the President's been involved. But it's going to go down to the wire. Whether they can get it done by Thursday or Friday or not, we'll have to see.
All right, this past Saturday, moving on, environmentalists took to the street all over the country, and there were protesters. They were packing up the streets everywhere, and the celebrities were just oodles of them. Leonardo DiCaprio was there, Al Gore, Richard Branson, and all of them showed up on their carbon-spewing private planes to hang out on the mall there and just flying from place to place. But the big headline above all of the stuff for climate change is that these environmentalists, those that care so very much about our environment, left a mess. Actually, an environmental disaster. There's locals all over the D.C. area took pictures of all the garbage, plastic bags, signs, food, water bottles, everything that you can imagine, trash left behind everywhere. And they're concerned about the environment and flying off in their jet planes, private planes, with all the carbon emissions that come out of those jet planes, and they care about it. It's hypocrisy, folks. Hypocrisy. Yeah, and its greatest. There's no doubt in my mind, just with the climatologists, meteorologists, that you can read about it, is that the Earth goes through changes, has gone through changes, and I'll give you a perfect example. I'm not even a meteorologist, okay? But in 1995, when I first moved to the Telford Hotel in White Springs, Florida, to help with Chuck, we had some wildfires, okay, in 96 and all that. It was 95, 96. Cooked a lot of I-10, parts of 75, tens of thousands of acres, okay? And pretty much conditions were as they are now for Florida, dry, windy conditions, unusually dry spring, and that's what we have here in the state of Florida. For the people, we originate our broadcast starting point, Tampa, and then syndicated throughout the country. But anyway, we haven't had this type of drought since then. Okay, every so many years, things heat up, dry out, winds shift. It happens. And it has happened. And as long as I've been alive, I've seen it. You've seen it. Some winters are worse. Some winters are better. We get more snow, we get less snow. It happens because of changes. The ice shelves are melting. The ice shelves actually are getting bigger than ever. It just depends on the year. And the other planets in our solar system, by the way, are heating up too. The sun gets hot. But it's pretty cool up there in outer space too. But that sun, it has an effect. Now, we could probably do a better job with littering up our landmines and our carbon footprint there, because that stuff radiates everything. It's stuff if you're near a junkyard, you smell that stuff. I'll never forget the junkyard in Kearney, New Jersey. My dad, broadcast engineer, used to take me to the transmitter site in Kearney, where WMCA, and I think their transmitter is still actually there, a little outside of New York. And, man, you could smell that place for miles. But there was radiation concerns. You get too much close to there. I mean, you could bring a fluorescent light bulb, and the thing would actually light up. I mean, it's just, it's just ridiculous. But, again, the hypocrisy, you should see these pictures online. You can look it up. For the climate march, for these environmentalists leaving behind an environmental disaster. Thanks. You care that much about the environment and Mother Earth that you have to do this. And it gets worse, folks. So the May Day protest, this was yesterday. Okay? What happened there? More than 40 people were arrested. 40 people. Starting fires. Yeah, tens of thousands of people across the country, they were chanting, picketing, and protesting against President Trump's immigration and labor practices on May Day. Yeah. And I was listening to some of the audio and some of the pieces of some of these players that were out there protesting and chanting and raving and setting fires and hurting people and all this other stuff. We're a nation of immigrants. No kidding. We are actually all immigrants. We all immigrated from somewhere. Donald Trump's family actually immigrated from somewhere. His wife obviously immigrated from somewhere. We're all immigrants. We're all in this together. Go back to work. Do your job. Assimilate. Pay taxes. Do the right thing. Get ahead. Only in America. You can go to North Korea, you can go to Iran, go to Saudi Arabia. You can go some other places on the planet, and you can complain there and see how fast you get locked up and thrown out. Yeah, you go, and that's all right. Thank God. But people have the right to protest, and that's a good thing. The First Amendment gives us the right, and that's a great thing. But you don't destroy property. You don't throw bottles at people. Throw things